you. I want to walk like you, talk like you.
Well, welcome everybody. If you're watching on Facebook, we're live streaming. If the audio is a little different, we got a different cord set up, and we have 4 on there. We're still figuring that out. So we'll have the regular audio uploaded on our Spotify and Podbean and all those things that we normally put it on. But we're excited to be here today. It's a Sunday afternoon, so we have worship this morning. And, we got some members from Enola here with us. We got Brock and Lindsey Breeding here. And Keith as well. He's here too.
Yeah.
So I hear you guys over there.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for being here. Sorry you couldn't be here without your wife, man.
Oh, yeah.
I tried. It's a separate
Just
task.
tag along.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
That's right.
Absolutely. It's definitely probably best that she's here.
Yeah. Ours probably need to be here more than they have been, for sure.
Supervision.
We get away with a lot. We get away with a lot. We'll hear about it later, though.
Yeah.
But we're excited y'all are here, and we didn't have, we talk about, topics and stuff like that, and we got to talking a little bit before we started the podcast, if you're listening, and what we're going to talk about today, and we're like, well, we're just going to talk about real life, and a lot of times we focus on big spiritual thoughts or big spiritual issues, and we forget sometimes that just the things we do, maybe even little things, spiritual acts through our day, have such a great impact, on the people that we're serving, but also on us. I think y'all have really, come to acknowledge that in your life, just different things you got going on these days.
Well, and one reason I share that, and then we'll get it, you're talking about the big things. It really is just sometimes the little things that make the biggest impact. Just like Amy Barley that was on, she just posted on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
HMU. So I guess when you use letters, you better clarify what them letters mean, right? But it says that means hit me up for the old folks. She said, I'm free tomorrow, 5 a.m. Man, that's early. To 2:30 p.m. to help anyone out. Errands, meals, visit, clean house, etc.
Wow.
And just posted that on Facebook.
Yeah.
Now her mother says she needs her house painted. So that's the trouble you get into. But I've never thought about using my talents. Just saying, I'm free this afternoon. Call me. I'll go pick up anything you need.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's it. And that's the way I see you guys, I guess, where I see you just doing little things that make a big impact. And so that was why I was kind of wanting you on here, because I don't know, I've grown to see you that way.
Well, I'm glad you see it that way. I try to do things, but I always feel like I'm not doing nowhere near enough.
Well, you said you were you remember Dennis Curtis when he was doing the Lord's Supper. Dennis, just a great guy.
Awesome.
Always love his communion thoughts. And you made an impact when people commented on it later.
Yeah.
Right.
And we were talking that night, and you said,
I'm definitely a sprinter.
I'm a sprinter. For your listeners, it was either, are you a sprint Christian or a marathon Christian?
Oh, man, sprinter.
And he was,
sprinter.
I'm a sprinter, I go for a while and stuff.
Yeah.
And,
I have been my whole life, though. Like, I get super invested, and I'm like, and, I'm good for a few weeks or whatever, and then I'm just, right back to how I was before.
Yeah.
Way for sure.
I've definitely been trying to make sure I don't do that.
Yeah.
Well, and that applies to everything in life, though.
Yeah.
I mean, we do that in eating healthy and working healthy. It's not just our faith life that we're a sprinter and maybe literally sprinting, or it applies to all aspects. Yeah, all aspects.
Sometimes in those sprints too, I've noticed, and I don't know if you agree or not, but when you are sprinter mentality, it seems like when you're younger, or maybe at least a younger Christian too, or just younger in life, you have shorter amounts of apathetic periods between your sprint. Like, you'll have more frequent sprints than not. And as I've aged and different things in life and kids and stuff like that, the sprints sometimes seem shorter and the valleys seem wider, like where I'm just doing my own thing, not concerned about my spiritual health. And that's the danger I've acknowledged just in my personal life is, I used to be not okay with not praying for a week, and now sometimes you get so busy that you could think about 2 months and you're like, oh man, I haven't had a personal prayer time. I'm talking about me, and I'm preaching to people and preparing, but still, it's hard sometimes to maybe just get out of the sprint mentality.
Well,
that's not the best mentality to be in.
Yeah, I'm not a runner in any way.
If we're talking about
when I was
running,
younger, I was a lot faster than I am now. But when you talk about people who run marathons, or I think it's Eddie Hawkins, was it daughter, I think, that runs the marathons? I just drew a blank right now. Berries.
They're all very athletic.
Yeah, and she runs marathons. And she said, I just love it. And she says, I'm like, golly, why? But most of the time, I just put my headphones on. I just put something, and I'm listening to something, or I put a podcast on, and I just get lost in it, and then I just run. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the same thing, spiritually speaking. Those people who are in it for a lifetime, they understand. Let's just put some music on, or let's just spend time in His Word today. And, if you're more of that sprint mentality, you ain't got time to do any of that. It's just all about you getting from point A to point B so you can stop. And maybe there's some truth to that.
Brock, you work with Clay, right?
Yes, sir.
I got you. Now, Clay was on the last podcast we had, so I thought I'd bring that up.
Oh, you had to make sure. What is this on?
Do we have that strategic in place? I need to zoom in real quick here.
Yeah. You have a slow zoom.
Yeah, Heslop Electrical.
Heslop Electrical.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen him electrocuted? Have you ever seen how he...
No, he's a little better than I am. That
He doesn't work, does
Yeah, he's probably seen it happen to me a lot.
Yeah.
No, he's good. I don't think he gets shocked anymore.
He doesn't get
He done his time.
Yeah.
And Lindsey, what all you teach middle school?
Right, 8th and 9th grade science.
My condolences.
Yeah.
Do you ever want to electrocute yourself?
I mean, no.
How's that going?
I have a really good group this year. Like, I am, there are always, it comes and goes. Every class they have their own style, their own vibe of kid, but so blessed this year to have just a good group.
That's awesome.
And I'm starting to get some of my younger ones that I also am a shooting sports coach.
Oh, yeah.
So I have some of my younger kids that are coming up in shooting sports that I have in class now, so I can relate. I mean, science, you can relate to anything.
Yeah.
Anything in the world. So I like to try and, I know them well enough to know, like, what they're interested in and kind of reference that as much as possible.
Having that awareness of who you're ministering to, because it's a ministry as much as it is teaching, and you also have another, ministry to women you mentioned earlier. Now you work with Mary Kay.
Yes,
is that right?
So I am an independent beauty consultant, and that is my ministry. So our goal is just to bless women in our lives, and we talk about skincare, but most of the time we're talking about their lives and how God has put them in different situations. And we've had several, I drag Brock to all of them, but we've had several different seminars and different things, and the business is built on God first, family second, and career third. And like, how many?
So that's your company.
Yes, that is the Mary Kay company.
That says God first,
family second, and career third.
Where's your husband fall in? He's your model, right? I mean,
I'm American Man of the Year.
Self-inducted there.
No, he won it.
It's not
That's the real deal, right?
Nice.
Out of our unit, he got voted.
Really?
Yes.
That's awesome.
He has a certificate and everything. Like, it's a real thing.
Dude.
It's a pretty big deal.
When you're the only man there.
He's not always the only man.
He's not always the only man there.
But when he is, he's the best one.
He's the best one. Right.
Nice. That's awesome.
But I think he's seen me. I mean, I have been challenged in my faith. I have, I don't know, girls are not always the easiest to get along with. Growing up, I mean, I was in sports and we were riding four-wheelers. I was always outside. So most of the time I was hanging out with the boys because I related to them more. Yeah. And now as an adult, I'm like, I don't know if I want to be friends with girls. Like, I don't know how that works. Well, now I have found not just friends, but I mean, godly women that I can call and like, hey, I'm struggling with this or this. Wow. And they are right there every single time. And
that's awesome.
It's hard to get girls to agree on things too. And having us all travel together, that's when you learn stuff about people, like, and to be able to do that and keep your faith and, so, right. Yes. And it has been, I feel like I've grown so much and I have really changed my mindset for sure. Like, at first I was like, oh yeah, this would be great to like, be able to one day retire and I could just do this for a living because, I mean, you see these girls making the big bucks, but that's not what it's about. If you're chasing the diamonds and the cars, you're missing the point.
Yeah.
we get to sit down and talk with women from all different backgrounds, and we talk a lot about faith and having that God first mentality. And I have several girls that I work with really closely, and they are the people that I turn to if I have questions.
Well, and also when I first even started my roofing company and I started Skyward, I'm like, well, if I join this friend group on Facebook, then they'll all see that I'm a roofing and they'll call me for their roofs. And then, well, I'm a Christian, so if I go to church, I'll get all their roofs. And then if I say that I'm a member at 2 or 3 churches, I can get 2 or 3 roofs. And it was all about the members that I could meet, and maybe I get their roof and make more money. But after a while, I changed the mentality where that's not even the point. I mean, I really would want to join your Facebook so I could get to know you and help you with, if you let me do your roof, that's just great. If you don't, I'm fine. I just want to help you. And I think I see that you're doing that same thing there with Mary Kay. It is really about helping people in their journey more than it is, hey, while we're on this journey, you want to buy some makeup? Because it'll at least make you look pretty while you're mad. I mean, you know, you're sitting there making money off of, why don't you put some makeup on right now? Because you could really use, you know,
Probably don't wear it like that.
But
you can tell we're really in tune with our feminine side.
yeah, we're really, that's why we don't wear makeup.
Well, that's the reason.
We can't cover it up.
There's no hiding.
There's no hiding this face.
I was at their, I don't know what you would call it, training thing this weekend. Only one there, by the way. Only husband. I was informed that I wouldn't be, but I was.
I was misled, so then.
I was misled.
Oh, yeah, I see.
One thing that they did say while I was there that I thought was interesting, they said, we're not trying to find girls that need Mary Kay. They're trying to find girls that Mary Kay needs. So like girls that can like help fulfill their mission of helping other women and helping them grow their faith and become leaders and stuff like that.
Does that relate to the church at all, you think?
Oh, yeah.
Man, you're just saying like that, preaching right now.
Oh man, that was so good, because even I was looking at the woman at the well in John chapter 4, and when Jesus met the woman at the well, the disciples went on into town to get food because they knew Jesus would be hungry, so they're going to get food and they're going to bring back Jesus. So they really think that they're serving Jesus in this capacity. Jesus meets the woman at the well, and Jesus changes that woman's life. And when that woman left the well, it says she left her water jar at the well, went into town, and told everybody, you need to come meet this man that I met. They probably hated her, didn't talk to her. She had been, an outcast. She was out at Jacob's well at midday because she couldn't go with the other women to get water because she was such an outcast. But she said, regardless of what you think of me, come meet this man. And the Bible says that people left the city and they were coming out to meet Jesus. And the disciples came back who thought they were serving Jesus. It's like, what's going on here? Is he already eaten? And they're probably looking at these people like they're, different because they were Samaritans and they were Jews. And I thought, man, that spoke to me. When Jesus really does something for you, you want to go tell people and you want other people to know it. And you take on a different mentality. And I think there's probably some Christians who think that they're doing God a service by the things that they do. They think that they're, the godly people who are serving and doing all this, and I don't think they're doing it really for the right reason. Jesus hasn't done anything for them. Now, when Jesus does something for you, you can't do enough, and you tell people about it. You want people, and that's one thing I was thinking about when y'all went to the ambulance. Do you call it building? Doesn't it work for Padford?
It's the fire station.
Padford,
yeah,
it is the fire station?
It's like Conway's Station 2 for the fire.
Gotcha.
But is Padford connected to that?
Yeah. Well, they're not necessarily connected to the station per se, but they're located in the same building, and they have to go on some calls that are the same, so, but they don't always, sometimes firefighters are the only ones called out, sometimes Padford's the only one called out, but they don't have their own separate buildings like built yet or anything, so they're just kind of stationed there with the firemen and everything.
Okay, well, that's what I was thought, because I hear Clay talk about, he used to be a fireman.
Yes, he did.
And now he works for Pafford.
Yes.
So sometimes my man brain, I just...
Yeah, he was a firefighter for a long time.
Okay.
And so now he's working for Pafford, but stationed at...
Would he ever, if he had an electrical problem and burned down a house, would he get paid to go put his...
I highly doubt that.
Clay?
He's running a racket.
Clay's running around. But tell me about that story. What happened in that?
Well, I mean, there are times that it's just not always physically possible to get to the church building. And the one good thing that came out of COVID, I hate to say that word out loud, but is that we learned how to do everything online. So starting live streaming church, that helped a lot. Well, Clay has to work sometimes on Wednesdays. His schedule, they rotate days.
They work 48 hours and then they're off for 4 days. So, sometimes the schedule, he can't control it, and it just kind of happens to where I'll have to take or work on a Wednesday or something.
Sorry. But he had to work this Wednesday, and I had told him, I was like, we should, or I told Brock, I was like, we should go worship with him. Like, we should go watch church with him, because sitting at home or sitting in the station just watching your phone is not the same. Like, that is just not as satisfying to me. Yeah. And so I was going to surprise him. I wasn't going to tell him. And Brock was like, we should probably give him a heads up. So...
I didn't want him to be, on call.
Yeah.
Not be there.
Yeah, just not be there. I didn't think it through all the way.
Someone that usually plans out.
Well, I just got excited. I was like, we should do that. I didn't really think about the
surprise factor would have been cool. But
and I'll take my Mary Kay. Have a Mary Kay party while we're there.
So we ended up calling him and saying, hey, we're going to come watch church with you. I don't even know what Clay said. I'm sure he was excited. And then
you could tell he was definitely happy to have someone else there.
Yeah.
Well, then it turned into, we were going to just get Clay some supper, and then it turned into us
getting the whole station. So it was awesome.
Yeah, it was so awesome. And
I think they all enjoyed it, and most of them ended up watching it online with us.
They watched the class.
Yes.
Right. We couldn't get, for whatever reason, I could not get Clay's iPad to stream to the TV. Yeah. So in the middle of the station living room, we had the iPad on the coffee table, and we scooted it way out so all the recliners could see it. And
that is great. That is great. And they talked about some godly men that were there. That were.
I mean, you were asking your questions, and they were answering, and do you have Genesis 22 faith or 12, and one's a 12. I mean, it was they were answering your questions, and they were talking. It was good. It was awesome.
Well, thank you, Pafford Ambulance, for being willing to do that, and for always providing for our safety. And a lot of times they put others first before themselves. So thank you for that.
You never know the impact of those kind of moments in life too, where you're doing something you're enjoying too, but it was an intentional opportunity that a lot of people have that opportunity all the time, but it just seems like a lot of people also don't have eyes to see the opportunity. And I was thinking about the words of Jesus probably throughout this whole last week, and we've talked about it in different ways. I guess I brought it up. Jesus says, several times in the scripture, he who has ears, let him hear. Mm-hmm. And I think it applies the same if he would have said, he who has eyes, let him see. But he says ears, let him hear. I think a lot of times he's talking to church people, Christian people with a belief that want to do good. Maybe it's a little bit, of a faith, kind of like the rich young ruler, where I want to follow you, but I don't want to sell everything I have. Just opportunities that we let slide. And I tried to figure a way out to put it in my sermon, but it just didn't make sense. But I saw this quote about faith, and I related to it so hard. When you're driving in the rain, and we actually got a little rain yesterday, which was really weird. So thankful for that. But hopefully this cool weather stays because of it. I don't know. But you're driving in the car, and you get a little bit of sprinkle of rain, so you want to turn your wipers on, like number 2 or whatever, where they go every few seconds. But then it's like, and you're like, I got to go back. And it ends up being this one thing where you switch the manual what you need. You're like, I just want to put it on autopilot. When I do, it doesn't work out. And I was kind of thinking that applies a lot to our faith. There is no autopilot. Like when you're trying to autopilot your faith, and I'm just going to do whatever opportunities come up that I basically have spoon-fed to me. Like, this is a church mandatory thing, or it's a worship service, or it's my family, so I have to go take care of them. You're doing stuff for people that you don't have to. It's not your family. You're not obligated. If you didn't do it, nobody would say you're in sin, but you do it because you're watching the road. And when stuff's clouding you up, I'm gonna serve these people. And I just thought that was interesting. That's my phone. I'm sorry. I was looking around like, whose phone is that?
I was like,
He who has eyes to see. But man, the screeching sound of that windshield, I tried to like picture myself living that. When I see it screeching, it's probably because I'm on autopilot, and that's just not how spirituality and opportunity seeking works. Like you doing the thing at Pafford, saw that.
Well, and that's what on Wednesday nights we're going to start looking at Abraham. And you were just mentioned whether we have a Genesis 22 faith or a Genesis 12 faith. If you're kind of a new listener and you're listening, and you're looking at the Word of God, all of us, if you're going to be a Christian, want great faith.
Yeah.
We want the faith that we would do whatever. When you go to Genesis 22 and God says, hey, Abraham, and Abraham just says, here I am. Like, I ain't hiding from you. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to ask you what you want before I say that I'll do it. He says, here I am. And he says, I want you to go kill your son. I want you to take Isaac on the mountain. I want you to sacrifice him. And it says he just went, gathered the wood, got the servants, and they started heading up the mountain. And people have come to me and literally asked me, how do I get that faith? Teach me how to get that faith. And I said, well, you don't start in Genesis 22. Mm-hmm. You have to go back and take a look at where you've come from, what's your background, what are you dealing with, because there may be some things in your past that you first have to deal with, that you may have to maybe answer for. And then in Genesis 12, when God said, hey, Abraham, come here. I want you to leave everything behind. I want you to go to a land that I'll show you. You just have to start. That's your faith journey. You just start walking with Him. And sometimes it may be simple. Like when you texted me and said, we're eating supper with Clay, and I'll worship over there. What I figured was Clay was working and you were working electrical late, and so you weren't going to be able to make it to church, but you wanted me to know why you wouldn't be at church, so you were going to text me. So you had, this way out or whatever. And so I was like, that's cool. Like you're going to go eat with Clay. I get it. You work late. You don't have time. But then all of a sudden it became this, oh, y'all are trying to go worship with Clay, and you're taking pizza, and you just fed the whole Pafford ambulance guys that were sitting there, and y'all watched it online, and y'all are talking and discussing. God, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. But that's where we see our faith journey, where you don't sometimes intend for stuff to happen. But when we're walking with God, opportunities just fall into our lap. And when we take advantage of it, beauty comes out of it. And so, I probably have to apologize to you, because I was just like, yeah, he don't want to come to church. He's been working late. And,
Well, coming from me, that's pretty reasonable. I don't expect that to be the case.
That's our human side too, though.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, we as humans tend to automatically think of the negative. Mm-hmm. Like, not to say we're doing such positive things, but like that's just human. Like we think of the negative first. We don't think, oh, they're probably going. Like that's that's our human side.
Yeah.
I think sometimes I get a little too caught up, just thinking like, well, I'm doing one thing good, and like I didn't realize it in the moment, but later I realized I even missed another opportunity when I went into Little Caesars. I mean, I had like 6 pizzas and 2 crazy breads and 2 liter.
Yeah.
And I was trying to walk out, and the manager girl she offered to help me. And I was like, awesome, yeah. And so she's carrying a couple pizzas out with me. She was like, so is this like a birthday party or something? Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, actually, my boss works for Pafford. And I was like, they're at the fire station. Mm-hmm. So I said, so we got to go feed like 7 hungry firefighters.
Yeah.
I never once said we were going to watch church.
Yeah. No, I do that all the time.
It didn't cross my mind.
Yeah.
Until like we'd already left, and I was like, wow, I totally had an opportunity.
First thing he said to me when she helped him get the pizzas in the car, and he shut the door, and he said, I missed an opportunity. And I was like, it's okay. There's going to be another one. When you have that door open, there will be more.
Exactly. But when you continue Abraham's faith, he had an opportunity to shine, because when he got to Canaan, And he pitched his tent and everything's good until the famine hit. And then he had an opportunity to show his faith, but he didn't. He went to Egypt, and that's where he lied, and that's where, mistakes were made, but he learned from it. So the next time that happens, then you're going to know more. I mean, we were at Woolies today, and I just love going to eat at Woolies over in Enola. When we went to eat, and I met one of the ladies that was working there, and she was like, "You look so familiar." And I said, "I think I'm a Mary Kay model." And I didn't want to go any further. Hallmark.
Oh, yeah.
I started.
That's what they saw at Woolies.
Yeah, you've probably seen Hallmark movies before.
God's Not Dead.
God's Not Dead too. Yeah, in that one as well. But she was like, "You look familiar or whatever." And I said, "Well, I am the preacher over at Enola." And she was like, "No." And I was like, "Well, you look familiar too." But I said, she goes, "But I don't go to church." And you could see the way she said it was like, "I don't go to church." And I'm like, "You don't have to, I'm not judging you, but it's just like, that's what you think that they're fixing to, they don't know how to take it when, as soon as you mention church, that they don't know how, that it's meant, I guess.
That's your only interest is
to
go to a church building. That's what people I associate with.
And so it is difficult sometimes to know how to bring that into a discussion. But when it just becomes what you do, man, you just say it. And I have found more than not, especially in this place where we live, a lot of people believe in God.
We're kind of in a bubble.
Yeah, we are in that bubble, and sometimes we can see that as bad, but let's just get everybody in the bubble to believe, and maybe the church is a bubble to some degree, and let's just keep building that. So I just thought that was impressive when we're doing that. So
you have to. It's like a calibration process when you realize I need to take these opportunities whenever I get them. You're going to miss them in that journey. And that's the convicting part of it. Maybe that's the Holy Spirit at work within us too, when we're open to it and trying to be full of it. Oh man, I could have said something right there. And then your mind kind of associates, I don't want to feel like this again. So next time I'm more apt to, on the front end, I'm always buying weird junk at Dollar General for different church events, VBS, and they always have questions at the checkout line. Like you said, what are you doing? You gotta, sometimes I'm like, "Oh, you don't want to know." And I'm like, why did I say that? Why did I not just say it's a church thing? Because I have to go in the explanation, take the time. But the times that I do explain, there's questions that pop up that I never expected to have this conversation with somebody, at Dollar General or Harps or wherever it might be. And it can be a beautiful thing for you. It really can. I'm quick to judge. I'm on this side. I've got the money. You're on that side. You're working. And maybe by your appearance, you're not a churchgoer, but sometimes the tables are turned of, man, I probably need to let you teach me some Bible. Sometime. You never know how much somebody might know the book. And that's a beautiful moment that God humbles you in. And, you realize I've got to change the way I perceive the people around me and the way that I interact with people. But I appreciate you sharing that about the pizzas, because I can relate to that.
I can too.
Should have said something.
Yeah, should have said something.
Yep. There's a lady at Subway. I don't think she works there anymore. But anytime I come in, it all started one Sunday. I came in, of course, I'm dressed up on a Sunday. I'm like, "You go to I don't know what she said, a banquet or something?" I'm like, no, man. I'm preaching down the road, so I'm still dressed up. Like, "Oh, where you preach at?" And I try to explain them at the Logan Church of Christ. I tell them about the building down there. I'm looking for a church to go. And so I saw that opportunity. Like, well, sometimes it smacks you in the face. God's almost like, "You're not talking about church, boy. I don't know what you came in for." And so I start talking about, "I may come visit sometime. Please do." And this went on for probably 3 or 4 times going to the Subway. And she doesn't work there anymore. But her last day, she's like, "What would you do if I actually showed up? Would you recognize me?" And like, "I'd hear your voice. I'd recognize you." And I think that's where people are. What would that person do if I actually showed up?
If I actually showed up.
And I really tried to be genuine. I would love to have you. I would recognize you and I would introduce you to people. But maybe that's where people get a lot of hang-ups of, I like this correspondence, I like this interaction, but what would it be like if I actually showed up? And that's where people, and maybe I don't know exactly the solution of how do we be the church that assures people and gives them a level of comfort. If I know if I go, I'll at least know you and I will be comfortable there. And that's what we need to do with people.
Yeah.
But sometimes it starts in the fire department, or in the fire building with Pafford. It starts there. if you can set me pizza in a recliner with me, then I'm sure I'd be welcome in your church building.
What's so funny, I was over at Miss Sandy New. She's in one of the senior assisted livings in Maumelle. So I thought I'd go see her one day because she moved into her new place. And so she had got up. She had to go in the back bedroom or something. And one of the nurses came down, and I was sitting there in the recliner, just in my work clothes, And she knocks on the door. Miss Sandy, she ain't here. She might in the back. And we kept talking there. And I said, "Well, hey, you serve Miss Sandy and stuff?" We were sitting there talking. And she said, "Well, who are you?" And I said, "I'm her preacher." And she looked at me. "No, you're not." I said,
"What were you wearing?"
I said, "Yes, I'm her preacher." Wow, you're a preacher?
That's a compliment.
I know. She was like, "You're a preacher?" And she went, "Miss Sandy, hey, this guy says that he's your preacher." She goes, "He is. He's my preacher." And she was like, "You really are a preacher." And we sat there and just talked, shared life, and you never know the impact that it makes. I mean, we were sitting there talking. She said, "Well, we really don't go to church anymore. And I've got kids and got this struggle and just trying to get bills paid and all that." And, you never know the impact that it may make. And it may be the next time that there or the next preacher that's sitting there and they say they're a preacher. It might open the door for him to be able to make another step further. Mm-hmm. And so you never know the impact you make on someone. If we're a good light, they enjoyed that Christian interaction. It just opens the door later down the road. Because I don't think you need to go into Subway, "I'm a Christian."
Right.
And then, making sure everybody knew this.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to. They see it. They'll see it at your school.
Mm-hmm.
Your kids will know. Mm-hmm. They'll know that you're different in the way that you act compared to other teachers or administrators. At least when I was a coach and a teacher, they'd see it real quick, and you wouldn't have to tell them, but they pick up on it. And
I think that's one of the best kind of ways to reel some people in is like a lot of preachers are out there, and I'm not like hating on it or nothing, but they'll be all dressed up really, really nice in a suit, whatever, and like some people are kind of,
that's intimidating.
Yeah, they don't want to approach them, but I love it. Like your first couple times showing up,
it's not sounding great. Right?
I mean,
you're like, you don't dress very nice. It's easy to talk to you.
You were just wearing like the polo style shirt and jeans, and I was like, I like this guy.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a dude that is going out his normal life, but still
you're real,
spreading the word, and like you can talk to him and like connect with him. And I don't know, maybe that's just like my style, but like I can definitely, I don't know, learn a little more with him and connect better with someone like that.
Well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think often we spend too much time worrying about the formality of it too. Like, you have to, when you're a preacher, you have to wear a suit and a tie, and that's when you look professional.
And there's nothing wrong.
It's not going to make you look any less professional or make you any less effective in preaching to our church family if you're wearing a doodling shirt or if you're wearing which was so cool.
Doodling shirt.
That was awesome.
Was that not awesome that Georgia had drawn?
And Abby, right? Didn't Abby?
Yeah, Abby did the back and Georgia did the front. It was just
all intentional.
Just beautiful.
To me, that was more impactful than you up there in a suit. Because I saw you connecting with our kids and the future of our church. That to me was more impactful than whether he wore a tie that day. That's not what it's about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the context of who you're ministering with too. I mean, I guess if it was a more professional,
that's right.
I don't know.
That's right.
If everybody there's wearing a suit,
I've got the goofy tie.
Yeah, exactly. I can wear the suit. I can not wear.
I've got the Mickey
I don't care
Mouse
what I'm wearing. But yeah, I mean, I gotta watch myself because I like being comfortable.
I know.
And more times than not, I've got a hat on and tennis shoes. I'm wearing right now.
I don't have our hat on.
I know. Well, I didn't want my hair messed up for tonight because I can't wear a hat.
So you got our Wannabe hat on.
I was trying to visit somebody at the hospital not too long ago, and I walked in and. They got the person at the desk at Baptist or whatever. Who are you here for? And the security person, like, I'm here to visit so-and-so. I'm sorry, you can only have one person in there and you're not family. I'm like, okay. So I just walked away. I'm not a conflict, whatever. Yeah. And so the woman's, or the man's wife came down. I was like, he didn't let you in. Let me go talk to him. And he pulled me back over there. I'm walking over there. I got a hat on, a t-shirt. And they got like, ma'am, I told did you not know he's a preacher at our church?
Did you not know?
Yeah, I'm like, did you know? I was like, oh, he's clergy? I'm like, oh, well, why did you say that? I'm like, I didn't know. I said, I didn't have my collar on. I'm sorry, you know. I took it as a compliment, but also I'm like, man, maybe sometimes I should dress up a little more than I do. I just look like a person at Walmart wandering off the street, I guess. But,
well, I'm not Pop without my hat and my glasses.
Yeah,
my
yeah.
grandkids, Pop, wear a hat.
Oh.
They'll go get my hat, my glasses.
Yeah. But you need to be somebody that, yes, people are approachable to, but as you build relationships like y'all do, you feel comfortable bringing Keith somewhere and introducing to people that you might want them to, because it's connectability, it's relatability, and everything we do is intentional. You know,
I think I learned that early on. My dad was a preacher, and I just love my dad so much. Just did a fantastic job. My mom and dad raising us and stuff, and I can remember I was even in college working at Meeks Lumber in Northwest Arkansas. So we was all wearing coveralls and jeans, you know, we was dirty out there loading trucks and stuff. And one time, this man, big old dude, he came up to me and he said, Keith, you never told me your daddy was a preacher. And I'm sitting there, we don't know each other very well, you know. You never told me what your daddy did, so I didn't think about telling you about my daddy. And from then on, you know, it's like, excuse my French, you know, like, oh, I got to act different around you. And in my mind, I'm like, that's why. And my daddy never would really, people would say that, your daddy's a preacher? Man, he don't look like, you know, but he was a very godly man. But it wasn't the look, it was the words and the attitude that he had. And that's what people really want. They just want it to be genuine and real. Mm-hmm. And I think the church would take a lot from that if we were genuine and real with people, and that we do have problems. So people don't, you know, lightning will strike if I walk in that building. Mm-hmm. Well, if there's a thunderstorm, it might, but it's not just because you walk in that building, because we're sinners. We're sitting on that pew. We're just like you. And we, you know, we need help as well. So.
And you're allowed to change too. Like, I feel like we forget that in our culture. Like, you're allowed, if you have a past, like, okay, now let's work on your future. Like, let's work on now.
I like that.
And that's what a lot of people, it would lightning much. I've heard that so many times. It's like, okay, well, how are you ever going to change that? Mm-hmm. I mean, like, if that's your mindset, you're never going to get away from that. Like, I
like that.
So
if I'm headed to hell in a handbasket, I want to get out of the handbasket. Right. If you acknowledge to me that you are not saved, then what do we got to do to get you? And some people are like, they just don't realize the weight of where they're at with God at that moment. And yeah, the urgency is important sometimes. I don't care what you wear, but you need to start coming to me, you know, or whatever. And I was curious about you guys. I know y'all know each other pretty good now. I'm getting to know you guys, and I'm thankful to have y'all in the area.
Well, didn't I get to marry you?
That's what I was going to bring up. Now,
is that what
you guys have gone through some change, you know, some new seasons not too long ago. I don't know how many. Is that a year or was it a year?
It's a year next month.
Ah, so, good one. Nice.
Yeah, September 29th.
Man to your feet.
Look.
Hey!
He called it before you did.
Yeah, you passed the test.
That was a test.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm glad you had it.
Man of the year.
Didn't mean to set you up for that one, yeah.
No.
But
don't ask me what mine is.
Okay, we need flashcards. We need to practice.
Yeah.
I got you.
It's lost calls. We're all lost calls. But you guys have kind of made a lot of changes and decisions. I mean, what brought that about? Not just getting married, but everything else you've done too. What all have you been doing in your life that's brought you closer together, closer to God?
Well, when we got married, we also got baptized.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I was making sure I had
if
that.
you want to call it rebaptized.
Rebaptized.
Well, I grew up Southern Baptist, so
yeah.
And we spent long nights working with Clay, trying to talk about the difference and talking about the true meaning of baptism and talking about how different churches view it. And so I just felt like we had talked about it, and I really understood. I mean, Clay he researched diligently. But he wanted, and like you said, if this is where you think you're going, like, what can I do to get you saved? Like, and I could just tell he cared where I was going, Yeah, and it wasn't just, oh, we need to be saved. Like, let's just go dunk it out. Like, I mean, he wanted me to understand why. And I just thought, what a special time to just not only rededicate, because I almost look at it as a rededication too, because I spent a lot of time learning, but also just a new faith. It's just like a brand new me.
Now, when you say you got married, you got baptized, was this like the same time?
Right after.
You got married and then you got rebaptized right after the ceremony.
Right. Like there was no ceremony. It was be brought, keep the name Jesus.
Do you normally pay priests double on that? Is that kind of
was the commission per head or
suddenly it's
bonus overtime? I don't know how that
2 axles
works. I don't know.
That's awesome. I mean, that's a unique story. I mean, and I don't know how's it been since that moment. I mean, you got married, so that's a new chapter of life. You got rebaptized, so that's a new chapter of life. Has there been challenges? Has there been blessing? What would you say?
Well, I would definitely say for the first few months we were sprinting.
I gotcha.
I would say that.
That's immediately after, we
that's
were like, trying to show up more, do what we could, whatever, but it didn't really last. And I don't feel like it was up until maybe a couple months ago. And we really decided, like, we've got to start doing better. And y'all helped us a lot with that, because I can stay invested on Wednesday night or Sunday, but the rest of the week is when I'm just like, slacking bad. And so y'all having the podcast and just different things like that. Like, I love listening to the podcast now, and that's helped me tremendously in watching The Chosen, instead of watching, something that's definitely not going to help you spiritually.
Yes.
Just, and listening to more Christian music than, other things. It's you got to constantly try, and I don't feel like I ever really put in the effort and tried until recently.
I think with me, I got so focused. I blame my parents, really, because
we all do.
We all do, right?
We all do.
So my dad is.
It ain't my fault.
It can't be me. No, my dad is a perfectionist and my mom is a workaholic. So the perfect storm. So everything I do, I just have to go, and it's almost like my over the top is like my normal, and I have just set this bar. And my mom is like, "Why do you do that?" Like, I've never once pressured you to do anything. Like, they were not super strict, so I don't know. All the pressure is definitely self done, like, for sure. But I think I just got so focused on the end of school, and it was easier for me to stay home and be on my computer and listen to church some, and sometimes I'm not really listening, and just being completely transparent. Like, it just was easier for me to stay home and do laundry and do other things instead of, or when I did laundry. That was a season. But it was just being.
Don't comment. Don't say anything. Okay.
I muted him.
Suddenly. No, but just being honest.
But there's some, I don't know if there was a Wednesday night, there was some time, and you guys were over at our house, and I forgot what we were doing. Maybe it was even VBS. I don't know. I can't remember. I'm too old, I guess. But I can remember us sitting here going, if we weren't preachers.
Oh, absolutely. All the time.
I would probably be sitting at home right now. I'm tired. It might have been VBS, and you're putting in all this energy, but you're still working on top of that. And then you're like.
If you didn't have the obligation that you have, even though we spiritually do.
Yeah, you love it.
Nobody's calling you if you were supposed to be in charge of this. God doesn't do that.
Yeah. If I wasn't the preacher,
I can relate to people that go through those seasons.
I probably would have sat at home. I probably would not have been there.
Absolutely.
And all of us as preachers have said that. I mean, my son, Chase, he preaches at Jonesboro. And he said, if I wasn't a preacher, there'd probably be some Sunday nights I would just want to chill out and relax.
I would not be as faithful as
and not do anything. And so, maybe God knew that we would be unfaithful, Spencer.
Yeah, I think about that all the time. I really do.
It's going to make it where you have to be there, Keith.
Yeah, I get it.
But now I see it as a blessing. Where it used to be, like we commented last night, we went to Springfield, Missouri. Shane's youth minister there at Sunset, and they're moving into a new house.
Y'all went to Springfield last night?
Last night, yeah.
We were in Springfield.
No, you weren't.
What?
That's where the Mary Kay thing was.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well,
The
Union Hill.
whole way. Like, we were listening to the podcast literally the entire way
We
there.
were in Springfield.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
How did we
Union
not
Hill
communicate
had.
that?
Yeah, Union Hill had Keith Lancaster and acapella that was there from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. You know, so we thought we would. Why am I telling this story now? Oh.
You're only 30. Why you should not be having this one? Yeah.
I forgot why I was telling the story now. I'm just so excited to tell her in Springfield.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupt a lot. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. That's
You were talking about if we might not be as faithful if we weren't ministers and stuff. Were you talking about Shane? Did Shane say something?
I can't remember.
Shane, would you call us in?
Shane, they had.
We need to phone a friend.
Yeah.
What were we talking
We're
about?
I can't remember what we were talking about.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
While you're thinking, it's going to come to you.
Yes, it'll hit me.
But when we were talking about not as faithful as we would be, you know, sometimes I think about y'all's story. That's why I kind of brought that up.
Oh, I know.
I was stalling, so yeah, there you
Your
go.
thoughts. Your thoughts.
As a preacher, we work every Sunday.
Yeah.
So when I go to Springfield, I want to enjoy the weekend with my son, but we have to leave on Saturday night because we have to work Sunday.
Yeah.
You know, now most of that is because my son-in-law preaches and my son preaches and my others, you know, so we're used to working around that. My dad was a preacher, and so you grew up that way. But I can remember younger, you couldn't go somewhere on a weekend because you had to be back. And so your weekends were kind of messed up, and we were driving back, and sometimes Satan will say, you can't even enjoy a weekend with your son.
Yeah.
And Branson, y'all could have enjoyed the weekend and worshiped with him and sunset and encouraged him. And I'm like, be quiet, you know. So driving back, I felt that. Y'all are listening to Wannabees, and the Wannabees sitting there going, I want to be good, but I don't want to be going back right now.
Yeah.
So that sometimes preachers, you feel that, but at the same time, today was a blessing, and I was happy to be there. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No, yeah, you're good. I forgot what I was going to. I'm just kidding.
Oh, no.
Just keep talking. Yeah. Yeah, but with y'all's story and new chapter and everything, I mean, I'm sure there's challenges. I'm sure there is, whether it's, you know, learning each other as a couple too, and also kind of learning your new walk with Christ. I mean, it's like, I like the way you put it as rededication. I was rebaptized too. While in preaching school at Freed, it was in a preaching class, and I shared this during the sermon this morning, but the class subject, it was an old preacher that was teaching preparation and delivery. It's like one of these classes, if you're going to be a preacher, you go to Freed, take this class. And like the subject that day was members who may need to be rebaptized. And the whole thing was people that they've been baptized at a younger age or baptized in a denomination that didn't teach, you know, that salvation was different or whatever like that. And it struck me because I was thinking, I was baptized, I think, when I was 8 at the Baptist church, and we just kind of lined up, me and my family, and just went down and dunked. And I felt good for a couple of days, and I just kind of brushed it off. And now I'm sitting in this class thinking about ministering to people, and I'm the one that needs to be rebaptized. So I made it happen right then. But I felt like it was a rededication of my life, you know, of this, if I'm going to be ministering to people, and if I'm going to be somebody that claims I know what God requires, then I better be walking the walk, you know.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of people that have a passing thought or a good intention, but it's easy to silence that voice and go an entire life with knowing I need to do this, or I should have done that, or I probably need to get rebaptized, or I probably should talk to somebody at church about what I'm going through. They just don't, and they struggle alone forever, you know, and that worries me. That I know there's people in our congregations that are in that. How do you get them to see the need? And I think a lot of it is just we got to be the people like we're trying to be with eyes to see, because it may be something that helps you, but it's going to save a life of somebody that is not helping themselves. So I was just curious on your thoughts. Do you have like an intention with these things that you've done? Did you ever just sit down and I'm sure you had a talk of what are we going to do with our marriage? What are we going to do with this, you know, second opportunity we have as Christians that we've rededicated our lives? And if you haven't, I'm just curious. Yeah.
I have big plans for him. I think one day he needs to be a youth pastor or a youth minister.
Really?
Yes.
Boom.
Has she told you that before?
Yes.
Oh.
I just don't know that
So
That's awesome. Not that, yeah.
I'm gonna interrupt him. The reason his excuse when I first, and we were going through it all when we first started dating, and his reason was, nah, you know what I used to be like, you know, like,
Yeah.
I'm like, Yeah.
Yeah,
So you can relate
exactly.
to those kids. Like,
Absolutely.
because you don't think they're struggling with the same things, if not worse now.
Yes.
And that is always like, I always think about it.
Yes.
And I have big plans for him.
I had and it takes a wife to put that voice in your head.
It does. It does.
You never act on. I'm not guilty of that, but I've got a wife that plants those seeds too.
Yeah.
I had an elder sit down with me, not this congregation, but in a different one before, and we were talking about how to relate to somebody who's just, I couldn't understand, they couldn't understand me or whatever, and the elder goes, I want you to talk a little bit. And just talking to you, I can tell you've got a past, as that man said, I do too. He's like, what's your sin history like? And I looked at him like, what'd you just say? What? I was like, what's your sin history like? And I was like, well, I don't want to, I can go through the list, but I've done plenty of things. Like, I know you. Exactly. I just want you to think about it. It's like,
I'm a former wrestler.
Professional. Yeah. But I've lived a lot of life that it had nothing to do with my spiritual walk. And it all came full circle when I decided I'm going to invest in the people, maybe as a career or whatever. It's important to have people in the church that have a sin history. Not that it's like Paul said, I can boast in these things or whatever, sin or persecution. But it just makes you relatable. And people that don't have that, maybe because they were raised in the church, or maybe because they were sheltered by a family that was around the church. I don't know, but they don't acknowledge people in the church that have a real colorful past. And it takes people that haven't had the past. Like if it was all people like us who I didn't always used to be this person, then we would have some issues. But if it was all people that don't have a sin history or a resume of this is probably why I don't deserve it, but thank goodness for God's mercy, then there'd be no relatability to people who wouldn't have, who have the opportunity to be here, but they aren't. And I want to encourage you to do that. I'll plant that seed too, man, to be putting you think about that. I don't want to mess Clay up here and we'll plug that. People like you, and we talked about this to Shane too before, and I'm thankful that he became a youth minister, and I think he's doing exactly what he's called to do.
Shane Griswold.
Shane Altman, yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, but
he was in the middle.
Is he not the audiologist?
Yeah, he was.
He's a youth minister now?
2 years into
Yeah. By the way, it's recent. Yeah, he was an
and
audiologist.
he called me and just said, Dad, I need to be a minister.
I knew he was talking about it.
He dropped out of classes and applied for the job and got it. And
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's exciting.
That's right.
Your
That's what I was
family.
going through.
Your family.
Yeah, that's where we were just yesterday. I said, well, go over there and show me your building and stuff, and
Man, that's cool.
really cool.
So
We're behind.
yeah, so it's really neat. But I mean, here he was getting his doctorate, going to audiology, and then it just stops him. And so you never know where God may place you. And I see the same thing with Brock's heart. And I said, man, you're going to be a leader in the church.
Yeah. No matter what you do, you're going to be a minister. Yeah, in the church.
Yeah, we're
May
going
not
to do
be
it.
your job, may not be your occupation, but you're going to be it.
Right.
Yeah.
When the church finds people like that are willing to serve the church.
Man, I've been blessed.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for being here.
Yeah.
And man, we get to go back 5 o'clock tonight, and then I get to beat y'all at Progressive Game night tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, when you start talking.
I was going to throw down the one.
One gets
When you
late.
play a one in Progressive Uno, you can't talk until another person.
That's the thing. It's going to be somebody bumping his elbows on Keith. It's your turn. It's your turn. What? I was talking. Yeah. That's what it is.
Then I draw 2 more cards when it's talking. But we love you guys.
Yeah, we do.
Thank you for being a blessing.
Absolutely.
And thank you for serving in the kingdom, your honesty and your transparency, and pray that our listeners are able to see that and know that it doesn't matter where you're at today, tomorrow's another day, and let's just keep moving forward in our faith.
Yeah, thank you all. And listeners, please stay tuned. We'll be putting this out, and we'll have some more content coming too. But if you haven't found a church to plug into, we've got some good people in this area. We want to encourage you to visit Enola, visit Valonia, Mars Hill, wherever you might be located. Get plugged in. There's good people that you can relate to no matter really what walk of life you come from. We want to welcome you. And so I want to encourage that again. It is Sunday, so if you're listening to this live and you don't have plans for tonight, please come see one of us and let us get to know you.
Yes.
We pray that this is a blessing to you in your week, and we'll be coming at you with more. Y'all have a good day.